On this episode's intro segment with Grandma Bellitti, I asked her if STDs were a thing when she was growing up.
What about like STIs or STDs?
What's that?
Sexually transmitted diseases or infections.
Well,
Was that commonplace back then? Did you hear a lot about that, or was that taboo too?
We never heard anything of that sort.
Yeah.
No. There was one thing what was it? There was one disease. Yes, that's true. I heard about it later on, though. We never talked about it in the house when I was young. My mother never discussed sex.
Sure.
It was out of the question. Even my graduation in elementary school, some of the kids would talk. Now we'll see Jacqueline with a baby carriage. They'd write a little something.
Yeah.
And my mother would say, "You tear that page out."
Yeah.
It was unbelievable how they were so strict about everything.
Yeah. Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Counter. This week we are talking about STIs. STDs. Isn't it technically STIs now, though?
I think they use both terms.
I think it's interchangeable.
Interchangeable? Mm-hmm. Okay. STIs, STDs. Very interesting topic for sure. And we have James, who is old news at this point, pharmacy here.
Yes.
And then Danielle Choinski, who is a nurse and the founder of Libby's Choice, which is a nonprofit for colon cancer awareness, all of that good stuff, prevention. So thank you, Danielle, for joining us today. And let's get started, I guess. So from your perspectives, what are the most common STDs and what's the difference between them, I guess?
Well, we want to make sure that we differentiate between viral and bacterial. So for sake of keeping it organized, because there are so many different kinds, we're going to start off with viral.
Okay.
So that's like HPV, that's like herpes. And the best way we can describe that is that viral means you'll always have it, but you can receive medications that help to control the symptoms that you'll be having.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
cool.
that word uncurable terrifies many people.
Yeah.
And obviously, just like HPV, herpes, also HIV, they're all sexually transmitted disease, and people feel like it's the end of their world,
Sure.
Now, it's absolutely correct that we can't really cure it. However, there are definitely medications that we can use now to treat it so that people can still be safe from it.
All right. So what are some common myths that you guys have heard about how you can actually contract these diseases? Obviously, sexually transmitted, so sex would be the obvious one, right? But I've heard, tractors or sitting on a public toilet. What are some myths that you guys have heard, and what's legit and what's illegitimate?
So those are all not legit. Sorry to burst that rumor bubble. Not legit, but anytime you are participating in a sexual act, you are putting yourself at risk for receiving
any sexual
transfer.
act.
Any sexual act, yes.
Gotcha.
Especially if there is an outbreak, like he was talking about those symptoms that you could be having, like the blisters or anything that it's open wound or anything like that. That is how it's also going to be transferred during your sexual activity.
Okay. So I guess that's a good place for the ones that you mentioned, which are some of the more common ones. How would you be able to tell or identify that you even have one, or what are some symptoms, I guess?
Yeah, so those blisters we were talking about, kind of those growths that just don't look right. And actually sometimes they can come and go because they're there in your body now permanently. It can show itself sometimes and then not show itself sometimes. So if you see anything of the sort, even if you're questioning it, you should always go get it looked at, because it might not be that. But most likely, if it kind of looks like that gruesome that you kind of see on TV and on Instagram that people are making jokes about, you probably want to go get it looked at. But could it be an ingrown hair or something else going on? Maybe, right?
Sure.
But you want to get it looked at and you want to get tested.
Sure.
A lot of times, kind of know.
Yeah, it is
Are you
true.
speaking from
True.
personal
Like-
experience?
Well, no, I'm not going with personal experience, but
Yeah.
people actually have come into the pharmacy, right, asking me questions, and they know the answer back of their head.
Sure,
They
okay.
just hope that I give them some different type of answer, and most of the time I'm
Yeah.
like, you gotta go, you know.
Yeah.
So if you have any doubt, most likely, it's definitely worth being tested for. And the one other thing I wanted to mention, other than sexual activities for STDs, people can also get done by needle sticks. And it's common, obviously, around drug users.
Sure. That's
and-
where HIV
Right.
is in, I guess, right?
Well, right, for
Yes.
multiple
Yeah.
different routes.
Yeah.
But that's something that people don't realize. Sharing needles is definitely one way of contracting it as well, even though you don't have any sexual activity. So that's important as well.
Gotcha.
And also, too, we had discussed a little bit earlier was during pregnancy. So when
Right.
a woman is giving birth, it can be transferred to the baby.
Right.
At the
Which
time.
are there any in particular that applies to? Is that all of them, some of them, or the ones we've mentioned at least? Like, are
So HIV definitely.
Herpes.
Herpes
Yep.
definitely. I believe because HPV can have those blisters as well, that's also a way to transfer.
okay?
So almost all the viral ones are definitely can be.
Yeah.
But and again,
They found ways to help to control that and
Absolutely.
reduce that and to treat the baby afterwards to prevent those things, but it's something you would never want to have to go through experiencing
Sure.
and worry about. I mean, there's
course.
so many other things to worry about when you're having a baby. It's one thing on your plate that if you could avoid it, that
So viral, incurable, bacterial, basically antibiotic. Clear it up. Is that how it goes?
yes, it's simply put, yes. As long as it was caught early, without much complication, couple doses of antibiotic can cure most of the common ones, chlamydia, gonorrhea, syphilis, and along that line. They can be treated. It's just a matter of really opening up, visiting the doctor, and actually say, I might have a problem.
Sure.
And just like even with the pregnancy as well, even for someone who is HIV positive, there is a way with using correct medications that their baby will not have any HIV. They will not be HIV
But
positive.
it's important to be open and honest
Exactly.
and talking about that and have it a conversation because you need to know what to do, what steps to take. The doctor
Yeah.
needs to know what to do and what steps to take.
Yeah, I mean that's like maybe the biggest goal of this show even is to just kind of
Talk
bring
about it.
awareness and talk about it so people
yeah.
are comfortable being transparent
Yeah.
about these kinds
yeah.
of things.
Of course, too, which we haven't spoke about is for women, vaginal discharge
Yes.
is always going to be a possible sign of something going on. So whether
Okay.
it's as simple as a yeast infection, which is not, it's just an infection
Right,
going
right,
on.
right.
But if it is persistent and looks different, and I mean, anytime that you're having anything like that anyway, if it's just a simple yeast infection, you should be seeing a doctor. So
Sure.
if something like that is going on too, I mean, women are able to see a little bit more signs that way, but also not, because if it's happening on the inside,
Sure. No,
we
it's
can't
fair
see
fair
it,
point.
but you as men, you can.
Right.
So
Sure.
there's kind of like these perks and things, but in the
Damn
end,
men.
if you feel as though something's off, you always have to go with your gut.
Sure.
Something's not right. I don't feel the same. Something changed. I need to go talk with a doctor.
No, that's good advice. That makes a lot of sense. So you mentioned common, or just that word in general. So how common is common? How common are some of these things?
So the CDC has said that I think it's about 540 people per 100,000 have chlamydia. So I looked up how many people are in MetLife Stadium, and during a really busy football game, there's about 80-something thousand
Which is never
people.
too busy if it's the Jets.
So you figure, give or take, there might be 500 people in that stadium that has chlamydia.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. And another question I've always had. We talked about sores and the different appearances. What's the
yes.
difference between if you have a cold sore versus herpes? Like I saw some statistic that 80% of people actually have herpes. They just don't know it, or
Yeah.
I mean, I'm totally making that number up right now, but I've heard that over the years. And that it's just like a latent thing. Maybe it shows sometimes, maybe it doesn't. Is that true? Am I completely off base there? What's the difference between, a herpes sore and a cold sore? Is it the same thing?
No. So the best way to actually describe, which is why people get confused too, I
Right.
feel, is that when you're stressed and things like that, you can get a cold sore. If you're sick, you can get a cold sore. You can get a canker sore in your mouth if you're stressed. And herpes kind of acts the same way, where an outbreak can happen when you're under stress or when you least expect it. So that's why I feel as though people get confused by them, but they are two different things.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes, and at the same time, you can suspect possibly herpes virus if it's happening in the same spot every time. Also, generally, herpes virus tends to be around the mouth, not inside of the mouth. The one that big white hole that people see when you get stressed or you don't get
So
enough sleep. Yes. Those
Painful,
are
annoying,
very
yeah.
painful, very annoying, but generally those are idiopathic. We don't know why you're really having it, but that's generally not related with STDs.
Okay, gotcha, cool. All right, so obviously this is about transparency, and you guys mentioned a few times, have the conversation. If, you feel in your gut there's something going on, bring it up to your doctor, right? So what are some other ways or action steps people, if they suspect that they have an STD, what are some other action steps that people should take?
So always want to make an appointment with your doctor. It could be for women, your gynecologist. It can be your primary doctor. I mean, people have even come up to you, it seems, and asked you questions. So
Absolutely.
really just to ask questions. And then, of course, getting a test, whether it's blood work or whether they're going to take a sample from the area and test it that way. You just want to get tested, right? So always get tested, always ask questions. Prevention-wise, though, so you don't have to ask those questions and don't have to go get tested, is obviously the first one is going to be absence, so not
Right.
participating in these activities. If you are
These
with
activities.
these activities, or if you are in a monogamous relationship, remaining monogamous, because you hear crazy stories that happen out there that they find out loved ones cheated because
Oh my
Right.
God, yeah.
they end up finding out that they have something, things like that. So always being honest with them too and talking about it, being open with your partner if you are positive for something, so they know their susceptibility and know that you guys have to be careful and be safe. And that goes down the line too of condoms
Right.
and dental dams. And
How effective are those at preventing STDs?
so of course, if it breaks, you're now gonna be
Exposed,
exposed. Yeah. But if you are using a condom and it remains intact, you're reducing your chance of getting it. Now, of course, if the outside of the area has an outbreak of some kind,
Right.
it can interfere and you can still.
Of course, but if you use it properly, its chances are extremely, extremely low. At the same time, as of right now, condom is probably the best way of preventing any type of STDs. So it's just really, now there's different, obviously, even with the pregnancy chances and STD, as Danielle mentioned about what if condom breaks, but a lot of those happens because of mistake, whether not wearing properly or not
it
wearing
on
You're
too
not
late.
being attentive
Correct.
either. and-
Right.
yeah,
So
yeah.
as long as you use it correctly, you can still enjoy safe sex.
Sure, okay.
Now, of course, oral sex, people don't usually use a condom, so really refraining from that is
Sure.
very important.
They do have flavored
Especially-
condoms as well.
Stranger danger. Kind of.
Stranger
It's-
danger.
yes.
And even, alcohol and drug use come into play with
Absolutely.
that because it's taking away your ability to make that decision or even
Right.
to remember to use something.
If someone has an outbreak of herpes on the mouth, could you get it from making out with someone?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like if it was
Unfortunately,
dark
I hate
at a
to break it
bar
to you.
kind of thing, or something
Absolutely.
like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
scary.
It's not just a pimple.
Yeah.
It can happen. Absolutely.
Gotcha.
And talking about prevention, the one of the things that, from a pharmacy perspective, there's a vaccination for HPV virus, HPV. So generally, what people don't really realize is that HPV actually can be very dangerous for women because it can cause cervical cancer, but the vaccination needs to be given to both men and women because the man is a carrier of it a lot of times. As of right now, there are a couple different series. If you get it young, age between 9 and 14, there are generally 2-dose series. You can do 3-dose, but up to 45, I believe there is a way you can get 3-dose series. After you speak to your doctor to prevent, to get the vaccination. And it's, I definitely personally do recommend getting a vaccination, just like any other vaccination that we have, because in the long run, it might save your life in that sense.
Gotcha. So, yeah, I mean, abstinence, obviously the best option, never the realistic option.
Right.
I
Most
guess,
people
right?
won't follow that.
I mean,
Yeah, of course.
we wouldn't be here talking about
Yeah.
it. If that
Sure,
was possible,
no,
so.
totally. So, what about, I mean, we have to talk about this now, but if you are contracted. I mean, it's a hotly debated topic, I would say, because it's just really a moral gray area. If you contract one, are you obligated? There's actually a great Netflix show. I don't know if you guys have seen it. It used to be called...
No, but I've heard of people suing somebody else because they didn't
tell them?
disclose that. Yeah.
Oh my God, what was the name of the show? I can't think of it. It's hilarious. It's British, so it's 10 times funnier than it should be. But like literally, they had changed the name of the episode. It was Scrotal Recall, and they had to basically the concept was this person had to tell all his partners, hey, I had chlamydia.
Yeah.
I forget, it was
Been
chlamydia.
exposed
right.
Then they decided that was a terrible name, and they changed it to Love something, and it blew up on Netflix. So you guys should watch it. It's hilarious.
Wow.
Very funny show.
So how did he tell them?
He literally called every single one of them and met up with them, and then that's the whole plot of the show is around
Just
all
telling
these episodes. But he's
everybody.
really in love with this other girl and blah blah blah. But he literally called every single girl and was like, hey, this is the deal, and you kind of flash back and show the whole thing. Anyway, neither here nor there. But if you're
you
not,
need inspiration, sounds like
There
a
you
great
go,
way to
yeah.
handle the situation.
but apparently, so I've heard, if you are not comfortable with those conversations, there are private messaging services apparently now.
Yeah, it's funny because I saw a meme about it and I was like, this cannot be real. And then when we were talking about doing this, I said, I need to find what this is. It's actually a website. I thought it was going to be an app, but it's actually a website, tellyourpartner.org. You can also find clinics through the website too. So if you need to go somewhere for treatments, or you're at college, you need to find one that's closer to college, but you came home and your primary doctor told you that you have something going on. So you can send a message to them. You can either have the message written up by them, or you can write up your own message.
Right.
And then you just select what it would be. So whether it's herpes or chlamydia or something, and you put in their cell phone, and it's sent anonymously, and it lets them know this has been anonymously sent to you.
Right.
So, yeah.
The reason I'm being so unusual about it or making faces about it if you're watching is because literally before we were doing this, I was just looked at my phone and I got this text message. Hey, this is an anonymous message letting you know that you have chlamydia. Basically,
You may.
I'm paraphrasing. And I was just looking at this, I'm like, and
Shocked.
then I see, Danielle in the corner typing away over here and eventually put two
I
and
wanted
two
to
together.
test it out and see how quick it worked.
Right.
It was immediate.
It's immediate. It is
Very
immediate.
quick.
So, just if you're going to test it out, maybe test it on yourself and just see how it works. If you're not feeling comfortable or trusting right away of how the message comes
Sure.
through, but they're saying it's anonymous and you can.
Right.
And the good thing about you did say, why wouldn't somebody just have a conversation? And you know what? Sometimes it's that one night stand maybe,
Sure.
and you're never going to see them again, and you just send them this message because you exchange phone numbers. I don't know, but clearly somebody's using it. The website's up and running.
Right. Well,
Right,
like you said too, it's better to say something than
Mm-hmm.
nothing. So even if the in-person conversation, phone conversation, too awkward,
Yeah.
at least that person knows,
Yeah.
and they can go and get tested. And this is something even during a physical, I just usually ask my doctor when they're doing a blood test, hey, can you do an STD panel, check for HIV, that kind of stuff too.
Yeah.
It's just a safe practice, I
Yes.
think.
Yes.
And I get questions
Yeah.
when I fill a prescription for antiviral, or there is a specific dose when it comes to antibacteria that I know that's what it's for. They do ask, should I tell someone about it? Very vague.
Yeah.
But we all get the idea,
Yeah.
and generally the answer is always yes.
Yeah.
You definitely need to. If that's why you're getting it, you definitely have to share it. So that number one doesn't spread. Number two, you want to keep your relationship
Sure.
pretty
Yeah.
clear.
Above
and-
bar.
Also, too,
Yes.
I mean, if the person is someone who's very promiscuous, the likelihood of them giving it to somebody else is,
Hi, yeah.
Yep.
and maybe nobody else has told them about it. So
Sure.
you could be kind of stopping this chain of disaster, hopefully, because hopefully that person will listen. And,
Sure.
No,
No, it
But
makes sense.
You never know. And whenever you have sex with one person, you're unfortunately having sex with everybody they've ever had sex with, if they've had chlamydia.
Wow.
Thank
Yes.
you
Or-
for
That's a
way
that
to
thought
put it.
in my
Put it
head.
into perspective for you.
Yeah.
And it's the truth.
So in
though.
MetLife Stadium,
So basically, if you have sexual interactions with one person in MetLife Stadium and they've had sexual interactions with everybody in MetLife Stadium, you've essentially
Had sex with
had
MetLife
sex with all
Stadium.
of them.
That's right.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
it's like 6 degrees of separation, or 6 degrees of separation. Wow.
It's a scary concept,
No,
but
that is a
honestly,
scary
if
concept.
you think that every day, you probably won't make that mistake if you're drinking or doing drugs.
Sure.
Where,
Sure. Cool.
And the other scary thing somebody once told me, which I had never thought about prior, and I was in college at the time, was when you brush your teeth, floss your teeth, and your gums are bleeding, those are open wounds for something to go
Yes.
into. So
No, wow. I didn't even think about
scary
that.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yep.
for sure.
So abstinence sounds really good right now.
Yeah, it does. It sounds great. It sounds great. Is there anything else you guys want to add, or any other STDs you want to accuse me of having via private messenger, or?
You're gonna get one randomly.
I know, right? Yeah.
Don't joke about this. Don't make this into a prank on
Yeah,
April Fool's Day.
It's
Oh, wow.
That would
it's
be.
a very
Now I'm
serious
giving people
things.
ideas.
Yeah.
No, I just think be careful, really think it through, be smart, and be open to conversation, because it is a nerve-wracking thing if you do first find out about something, or if you're afraid to go find out about something. But it may not affect you right then and there if it's bacterial, but in the future it could affect you. And then viral, of course, we know it can affect you. It will affect you, essentially, if you don't take care of it, if you don't
Yes.
address it. So.
Sure.
A lot of things to take in on a conversation like this.
No,
And
makes
there's jokes
sense.
about it too, all the time. We always hear jokes.
Yeah. I mean, we're
But
laughing
in the
now,
end,
even, you know?
when you really think about it, it's a scary thing.
It is.
Especially when the numbers, you can see all the statistics of the number of people in the country who have it. I mean, the likelihood of somebody not having it, that's what I think. I'm like,
Right,
to find
right.
somebody who doesn't have this or have had it in the past with a bacterial is
Sure.
probably limited.
Sure. No, it makes sense. Cool.
Yeah, but overall at the end, at the same time, it's really scary, but there are ways to treat it. There are definitely, the science now is a lot better than 10, 15 years ago, where
Right.
people are just dying as soon as they get the,
Right.
the virus. But now there are ways to treat it. and
People
just
weren't,
help themselves.
yeah, and people
Yeah.
were afraid to even shake somebody else's hand when
Right.
HIV
Right.
first came
No,
out.
I
It
know.
was
Yeah,
this,
it
they
was.
couldn't figure out how it was happening and all of that. So I mean, there's so much more knowledge that if you are given a result too, like ask questions when you're getting the
Absolutely.
medication. Go online and go to reputable websites that have the information. Go to a
Right.
clinic. Like, actually find the facts, because that's how you're going to prevent it. That's how you're going to treat
Absolutely.
yourself. That's how you will not spread it. So
Sure. No, great advice. Great advice. And yeah, that's always been the goal of our show, just to spread awareness, increase transparency between, patients, pharmacists, providers, everyone. You know what I mean? So, cool. Well, thank you for joining us. That was awesome. Besides the prank you played on me, everything else was awesome.
you should probably see someone.
Yeah, maybe I will. As always, for more information about us and what we do, you can check us out at hbpharmacy.com and gasparsbest.com. And for Danielle and her nonprofit, libby'schoice.org, right?
Is the website,
Is
and
the
then
website.
social media is at libby'schoice.org.
And that's LIBBYS choice.org.
No dot on
No
the
dot.
social media.
On the social media, right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Okay, cool,
yeah.
cool. And definitely check that out. It's a really great cause. And other than that, thank you guys, and we'll see you on the next one. See you later.
Thank you.
Do you have any thoughts on latex or other materials while we're here and I'm mentioning latex?
There are definitely different types of condoms. Latex is the most common one, obviously. But those people who are very allergic to latex, there are non-latex ones. And there is also lambskin ones that are more natural. That's going back in the day. But just briefly to differentiate, still out of those three, latex seems to